It is what we do each and every week here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and a special edition with National Signing Day in the books, at least for the early session. Miami, number 17 in the nation, number 2 in the ACC, according to 247 Sports. We got, of course, Cam Underwood from State of the U on the line. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, rested, relaxed after working a pretty full day yesterday for National Signing Day. On the website, not at the secret day job, doing all the updates and things. And I was planning on not doing text updates, but people said that they wanted them, so I made that happen. So yeah, I feel good.
So I read off the bottom line rankings, at least according to 247 Sports, which is mostly considered to be, of course, extremely credible, maybe the very best. Number 2 in the ACC, number 17 in the nation. Those numbers sound good to me.
Good, but not great. Yeah, there's a lot to like in this recruiting class for darn sure. There are some misses as well. So, talk about all of that, I guess. But overall, having a top 20 class, especially coming off of a 6-6 season, is, a very great accomplishment. But there's still things to be desired.
So, Cam, when you bring those things up, we'll get to those. But in regards to the late commits that were brought into the fold versus the guys that got away, divide those two categories for us.
Well, there were no late ads. There were no late commits. And that's kind of part and parcel of where the problems begin, or are continuing, I should say. Excuse me as I move my chair. Miami has not closed well in years, and that's part of the problem. And that is, kind of going in with losing games. At the end there, Romello Height was disingenuous about the fact that he took a secret visit to Auburn. He overtly said that he did not, but I get it. It was kind of like when Steve Kerr was asked about switching the lineup before the finals game years ago. Basically said, I could have told you the truth and given away our strategy, or lied and kept it a secret, which is proprietary to us and the focus of what we're doing. Same thing for Romello Height. Like, people asked overtly, you were in Auburn last weekend, right? The weekend before National Signing Day. And he said, no, I was at home, which was not true. But you miss on him. Manny Diaz said that was not a miss, because whenever a guy takes a visit who's committed, then he considers considers Miami to also be looking at new options. I'm sorry, Manny, that's not how it works. Romello Height was committed to Miami since July the 1st. Him going to Auburn at the 11th hour or 23rd and a half hour of a 24-hour day in this metaphor. That's losing a commit. Sorry. I mean, you can spin it however you want to, but that's losing a commitment. Sorry. You miss on Justin Flo, which, again, I expected after losing those games. I said it on, we have, I and a friend of mine, Fred Purdue, we have not every day anymore, but, a Canes podcast, Locked on Canes, and I said it today. I don't understand why for the last 15 years, Miami has been the most pump-faked, misdirected team whenever there's like a hat on the table ceremony kind of thing. Everybody knew Justin Flo wasn't coming here. You had Clemson and USC hats on the table too. You could have pump-faked one of them. You could have reached for one of those hats, but no, you reached for the Miami hat, paused, and then reached for the Oregon hat. Why does it have to be Miami every time? You know what I mean? Like, come on. And I mean, if you're hurt that we didn't get Justin Flo, I understand it. But if you really thought that we were getting Justin Flo, then I don't know what to tell you. The joke I made on Twitter is that I have oceanfront property in West Kendall. P.S. By the way, that's nowhere near the ocean for those people who are not from South Florida, to sell you guys. But yeah, I mean, any chance that you had went out the window when you lost those two games. Period. Darnell Washington has not announced yet, but he put up a couple emojis. He said he was not going to sign now, but he put a couple emojis up on Twitter today of one was a paper and one was a pencil. So maybe he signed with his chosen school. Spoiler alert, that school wasn't Miami. If it was, then I'm not going to get on here like some of these Florida fans and say that I'm going to eat feces or things like that. But I will admit that I was wrong if he ends up signing here. I just don't think that is going to be the case. But you have Jaden Francois, instead of coming to Miami for the third time, he commits to Nebraska in a kind of, maybe a 5.5 on the crazy scale, because he's going in and out of his announcement ceremony before it starts. He's on the phone, he's teary-eyed. His parents are going back there behind the gym. They went through one of the doors. I was getting DMs and texts from people who were on site at South Dade for this. So they saw with their own eyes. They're like, no, they're texting me. He got up, he went out there because the news came out right before the announcement ceremony that the coach who had been recruiting Jaden Francois to Nebraska is leaving to go to Ole Miss. And Nebraska's coaches are begging him to still go through with his commitment, still come out there and everything, blah, blah. And he was wearing a Nebraska shirt underneath his jacket. So that was the plan all along, in case people were thinking that, he was going to come to Miami all along and he switched to Nebraska. No. His whole family was wearing Nebraska gear underneath their clothing. That was the plan. But it was a crazy hour. He was in and out, and he's visibly upset, and he's sitting there like a petulant child, just pouting at the table, and got up again, and they removed his name placard from the table and told everybody he's not committing. And then all of a sudden he comes back and they put the placard back and he's sitting there. It was a time for Jaden Francois for about 70 minutes before he actually committed. Keyshawn Green also committed to Nebraska. Marcus Fleming, who Miami dropped / he decommitted, or whatever you want to say, he goes to Nebraska as well. But I think that they're taking his brother as well because they wanted to do a package deal kind of a thing. To answer the last two questions, yes. Again, Romello Height did take a secret visit to Auburn the weekend before National Signing Day as to why Justin Flo didn't come here. Miami started losing, and you lose any kind of cachet that you have with a recruit like that. And Mario Cristobal and that staff out there at Oregon's doing the damn thing. So, you have one staff and team that is floundering and another one that has closed like gangbusters for the third year in a row out there at Oregon. If it, once is an accident, twice is a trend, 3 times is evidence. In the case of Mario Cristobal, all 3 years, National Signing Day, early signing day, they close. Always be recruiting, always be closing. I mean, you look at Kayvon Thibodeau last year, number 1 player. You look this year, you got 2 5-star linebackers and 2 4-star linebackers in the same class. What? At Oregon? Huh? Yup. I mean, they're doing numbers out there. So, but that's the short story long to say, when evaluating the late ads versus the late misses, it is an undefined equation, because there were 0 late ads and all of the late misses. And that is a factor in how I and others perceive this class, despite the fact that 18 of 19 commitments signed, you lose 1, or 18 of 20, you lose 1 to Auburn. You have 1 who reportedly has academic issues, so he needs to sign in February. So 18 of your 19 currently committed guys signed yesterday is really, really, really great. But misses matter, and there are still holes on this roster in this recruiting class.
Justin Firm, we thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Want to remind everyone that Cam donates his time each and every week for 1 hour plus. Sometimes he's certainly been on here in the past. We've certainly respected his time in recent weeks, but he's been on here for 90 minutes to 2 hours at times, and probably with 39 appearances just on this particular iteration of what we've done here at Mark Rogers TV and covering Miami football. Cam's been on 100 times at least. So he's done just a phenomenal job for us and helping build the channel and doing all the work that he does. So please support us in a number of ways. You've got a number of options, but the super chat would be the most effective and most obvious. So Justin, thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask this question, and certainly we want and invite you guys to leave questions and comments in the live chat, and I will pass on as many as possible to Cam. As you run through your head the rules, the 10 commandments of recruiting,
the 9 rules.
Miami hitting it? Where are they missing it?
Um, you're putting the cart before the horse there, my friend. I usually wait until after the February one to do the full recruiting rules recap. But in general, off the top of my head, I mean, you get a quarterback, which is recruiting rule number one. You get a top 10 at his position, top 10 pocket passer. That's pretty darn good. Locally as opposed to nationally, I think that's pretty good. Most of the guys who signed are from Florida. You have a couple other regional guys, Quentin Williams from North Carolina. I think there was Romello Height from Georgia, but he did not end up signing. Chris Washington from Nashville, Corey Flagg Jr. from Texas, Tyreek Austin Cave from New Jersey. You get some of those guys, but a lot of the talent is from Florida and locally in Florida at that. So I think that's pretty good. Stacking classes on top of one another. In some places that's good, in other places that's not. That's one of the other recruiting rules. Following the visits, I mean, hey, look at Romello Height. That is, I mean, I'm not going to say that that's a good thing, obviously, in Miami's case. But if you look at some of these other things following the visits, guys who came down, guys who committed, and things like that went well. So off the top of my head, in general, I think Miami's done pretty well. But it's not a perfect kind of thing, especially when you miss. And I haven't even talked about the misses locally, like all of the, Bud Elliott at Banner Society now, the former SB Nation National College Football website. He does a scorecard of where the blue chip players from Florida go and sign. And a lot of them are going other places. And Miami has gotten some in this cycle, but a lot of them are the mid to lower part of the blue chip group. Your top rated ones, Donald Chaney Jr., Chance Williams, Jalen Rivers, they're up there and everything. Oh, Jalen Harrell also, those are, mid to upper tier in the blue chip proportion. But I mean, the misses are notable. Marcus Roseman is going to go and be 3 years in the first round draft pick to Georgia as a wide receiver. Elvis Dumerville's cousin, Marcus Dumerville at St. Thomas Aquinas, he's going to LSU. His teammate, Marlon Martinez, is going to LSU. Both of them offensive linemen at a position of great, dire, desperate need. You have Isaiah Walker Jr. from Miami Norland, whose high school was a literal, an easy walk. Not like a walk where you're going to be going through the desert for 40 years kind of walk. I mean, like, it's on 199th around the corner from Hard Rock Stadium. And you let that kid get away. And, there's more on top of that where that came from. But, when you look at the misses, and people are going to say, okay, well, we weren't in it to the end, so it's not a miss. The fact that you weren't in it to the end makes it a miss. But all these blue chippers, these guys at positions of dire need that you're not getting in this class from Miami matters. Ooh, these questions, there's so many of them. Corey Flagg Jr. is 5'10". He's not 5'8". He's very productive. He and Austin Cave, combined for about 300 tackles as high school juniors, with their tackles per game rate staying the same or increasing this year as seniors. I would believe the raw numbers for Tyreek Austin Cave improved. The raw numbers went down for Corey Flagg because he missed some games with a shoulder injury, but the per game numbers and statistics and rates went up. I mean, he's a guy who I think can play here. I would have felt a lot better if that were a Justin Flo or a Keyshawn Green at that spot, or in addition to maybe one of those spots. But it is what it is. Onward, upward, before we go.
Kim Underwood, State of the U. Please join him for the complete coverage of what they're working on there in recapping National Signing Day at stateoftheu.com. A number of names still out there. Jay, the U family Blaze. Jay, we always appreciate your contribution and you jumping in here. Throws out some names there. So those and any others, Cam, that you think are viable targets.
Avante Williams was committed to Oregon. That is Lorenzo Lingard's cousin. I believe that he has 2 children. He has at least one. I think he might have 2 kids. So people are thinking Florida or other teams that are maybe a little bit closer to his home and land because, got 2 kids. Demon Clowney, that's Jadeveon Clowney's younger cousin, a 4-star edge rusher. That's a guy who I would be interested to see maybe some contact being made. Malachi Wideman from Venice high school is a wide receiver and a very good basketball player, so he wants to play both in high school, is an athletic freak. I mean, that kid, he's like when I see him jump in basketball, it reminds me of Randy Moss jumping in basketball. Listen to what I said now. Listen closely, because you guys are going to. When he jumps in basketball, it looks like when Randy Moss was in high school jumping in basketball. That kind of, oh my God, this kid is 6'4", 6'5", but he has springs. That kind of a thing. And that's a guy who was committed to Florida State, might still end up at Florida State, but we'll see. There are some names there. You're obviously going to have to hit the transfer portal and look at some names there. Because you're going to need just additional bodies. And Manny Diaz made a point in his Wednesday presser at, when he was finally able to name kids by name, because you cannot do that until they've signed, you're going to look for some age in some of these rooms, which means to me at cornerback and at offensive line, you're going to look to bring in grad transfers and guys of age to help out at these positions. You're going to need to also bring them in guys with age and talent, because you went for some age this year. Tommy Kennedy being the most noteworthy from Butler, and he didn't play. He was a fifth-year senior. He's a guy who started 31 games at the FCS level. You bring him in, you beat Auburn for him, whatever. I figure he was going to be in the conversation for left tackle, and he played a literal handful of snaps all year, not even at tackle. I think he played center. Which is a position that you need, but it is not as impactful to the offense. It is not as premium a position as left tackle. So you strike out there. So, this year you got to do a little bit better.
Talking Miami football one day after National Signing Day here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is our Miami Hurricanes live show with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Justin Firm is reminding everyone in the live chat to hit that like button. We preach it every week. Just simply hit the like button, and then there are so many other things that you can do as well, as which includes jumping on the super chat to help us build the channel. All right, Cam, under the radar guys, if we would list this class top to bottom with the star rankings in ascending order or descending order, guys down near the bottom, maybe the lower half, the guys that aren't getting the attention that you like based on what you've seen and heard.
The first one has to be Xavier Restrepo from Deerfield Beach. That's the kid who was at St. Thomas Aquinas for 3 years. He was is a high academic kid. Deerfield is one of 3 schools in Broward County that has the IB program. I know that because I taught there, and at Miramar, which is one of the other. I'm sorry, there are 4 schools now because Plantation finally got one. It was Deerfield Beach. It was Boyd Anderson was the first one. Then Deerfield Beach was 2, Miramar was 3, and Plantation was 4. I say that to say a high academic kid goes from a high academic school at St. Thomas to a high academic school at Deerfield Beach, one of the paragons of public education in Broward County. Apart from that, on the field, he's a technician at wide receiver in the slot. He's 5'10" or 5'9", 5'10". Excuse me. And he's always open. Even when he's not open, he's open. He makes plays all the time, whether it's a game, whether it's a camp setting, wide receiver, slot receiver, punt returner, kick returner. He played defense, special teams, special teams like block and return, things like that. He's a guy who is not necessarily getting all of the press clippings for being a 4-star, 5-star All-American, but he's going to come in and he's going to play for 4 years. He's going to play really, really well. I think that he's like a Braxton Berrios in that, you put him in the slot, give him a 2-way go option route, and just kind of, you're not going to cover him because he can go either way. And he can run by you too. So if you want to sit on these little short routes, like he's just Julian Edelman, who's running 6 yards only, like he's going to run right by you. But he's a guy who, he's a dog. He's always out there competing. When I saw him at camps in the last couple of years, this guy, he was skipping to the front of the line. There was nobody who was too big, nobody who was too good. You're an All-American, you're 6'2", you're 6'3", or whatever. Line that up because I'm going to give you this work. And I love that mentality from Xavier Restrepo. So that's a guy there. Corey Flagg, who I mentioned previously, Houston North Shore High School, competing for a state championship this weekend. Again, he's just a very productive, instinctive guy. Yeah, he missed a little bit of time with the shoulder this year, a shoulder injury, but I mean, he's just a productive linebacker. He's not going to wow you physically. He's not going to be an athletic freak like some of these other guys and everything. But, Trent Harris wasn't an athletic freak either. But you know what Trent Harris did? His job. And I think that, a Corey Flagg Jr. can do something like that. Brian Balaam, my former personal student at Miramar, he was in my study hall my last year out there as a sophomore, told me then that he was going to do everything he could and he was going to play football at the University of Miami. And he made that dream come true. And I'm very happy for Brian. I know him. I taught his brother previously. I'd, been connected with his family. Great family, great person, studious, intellectual and physical. Oh boy. I went back and watched that film. But he's another high academic kid like Xavier Restrepo. Brian Balaam has a 5-point-something GPA in the IB program at Miramar. And I know that because everybody in my study hall that last year I was out there was an IB student with a 5-something GPA. So, yeah, I mean, he's an intellectual kid, but he's not just, some bookworm. Like, he'll go out there, you come across the middle, you're going to feel it when Brian Balaam's out there. So he's another guy at a 3-star who might not be getting the press clippings of everybody else. Marcus Clark from Winter Park, Florida. Played receiver for the majority of his career. Miami offered him as a cornerback, so he played that a little bit more this year, but only 1 year experience there, so he's not a great technician at corner. What he is super fast. And it's weird because I looked up his recruiting profile when I was writing the notebooks and everything. And I saw that Marcus Clark only got timed at like 4.59 in the 40. But he watched his film and he's running away from people. And I wrote it in the notebook. The first time I see him get caught or the next time that I see him get caught from behind is going to be the first time. I mean, this kid, maybe he just had a bad day. Maybe he stumbled or something. He's nobody's 4.6. Nobody's. I mean, remember I said this about Justin Hodges, that he was a 4.9 corner and he played slow and everything. Marcus I'm messing all my names up and everything. But yeah, Marcus Clark timed at almost 4.6. Watch his film. This is a 4.4 kid, like a legit 4.45, 4.43 kid, legit running away from people. I've seen on this film people, and I had to look up these other players. You have other guys with speed who have the angle on him, and it's easy breezy for Marcus Clark right at the sideline. I mean, just gone. And that's the kind of speed that Miami does not have on defense. So that's a great addition. And the last one I would say is probably Dominic Mammarelli, 6'4", 235, tight end out of Naples, Florida. High school, runs a wing T, so he blocked more than he received. But he's a very good blocker, has very good size. Is a threat up the seam. They played Miami Central in the first round of the playoffs, and he got up the seam for about 70 yards on them. Miami Central that won a state championship, by the way, with all kinds of FBS level recruits. Henry Gray went to Nebraska, was on that defense. Other guys who were going to FBS schools on that defense, and he ran away from all of them. Mammarelli was a 4-star recruit when he committed as a junior, but then he missed the majority of his junior year with a shoulder injury. I think it was a labrum. All of a sudden, according to the recruiting rankings, because he didn't play in games and he wasn't able to go to camps and combines because he was still rehabbing his injury, he became a less athletic prospect. He became a less talented prospect. That might work for their rating system, and I understand how you have to depress the ratings if a guy gets injured and doesn't play. But this is still a 6'4", 235 kid who can run and block and has decent hands and is able to probably develop a little bit and be a reliable receiver. Is he going to be Brevin Jordan as a receiver? No, because I don't think that he's that kind of a tight end, but he's better than I think that people are giving him credit for and discounting him because, the biggest year for your evaluation is is your junior year. It's the same thing for like applying for colleges. The biggest year that they look at is your junior year, and you maintain that through your senior year for the most part. Dominic Mammarelli is a guy who we should be talking more about as continuing the legacy of tight end U.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. We're talking Miami football. So what you do is like, comment, share the videos out there on social media, jump on there and do all that you can to help us build the channel and pump out the content on Miami football. And we've got other college football fans, obviously, in the live chat. They make themselves known as well.
Yep.
whether it's Florida, Florida State, Clemson, Ohio State, all sorts of people out there. All right. My other question would be concerning your excitement level for one specific player. Can't wait to see him on the field in game competition next fall.
Donald Chaney Jr. He's the top rated kid in this class. He's a top by the 247 composite, because I usually go by them for consistency. He's ranked 35 overall in the country, number 5 running back, number 6 in the state of Florida. This kid is just a beast. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He has great instincts, was the foundation of that offense. It's a private school like American Heritage, so he played in the playoffs from his 8th grade year. 5 years in the playoffs and things like that. He's the paradigm. He's the paragon of what a running back should be. 5'10", 205, or 5'11", 205 with wiggle and speed. He's that dude. And the 1A to that has to be Jalen Knighton, who Deerfield Beach. So he and Restrepo are the first Deerfield Beach kids that Miami has gotten in 20 years, 21 years actually, from the time that Derek Crudup signed in 1999. Second all-time leading rusher in Broward County history, only behind the late, great Tyrone Moss, who went to Blanche Ely High School in Pompano and then to Miami and then to the NFL before he passed away at a young age. But over 5,000 yards rushing in high school. And, Miami, spoiler alert for my signing day grades that come up tomorrow, Miami has the best running back class in America this year. 2 top 100 backs. Just look at the legacy of what they've done. Look at the production of what they've done on the field. Look at their size. Look at their skill sets. This is the best running back class in the country, bar none. So salute to Eric Hickson for locking them both down. And salute to the Miami Hurricanes for getting them both. But I can't really talk about one without talking about the other. So, yeah, Donald Chaney Jr. is my number one, but 1A has to be Jalen Knighton. And I know that people I've seen in the live chat, have been, popping up other names as well. The other one that I will say is Michael Redding III, wide receiver out of IMG Academy, originally from the Panhandle of Florida. This kid, if you're selling jerseys, you're buying his. Look, he's 6'1", 198 pounds, like 6% body fat, like 18-inch pythons. He has bulging muscles in his arm. No, look up the pictures. I'm telling you, you want to laugh. Yo, Michael Redding III is a big developed dude. If you're talking about a guy who can come in and play the X receiver, be the A1 day one target, that Michael Irvin position, that Amon Richards, that Andre Johnson type position, the X, this is the feature receiver for the offense. He fits that bill from a size and athleticism and production standpoint. Another intellectual kid who is going to study aerospace engineering. And that is something that, drove him to Miami over Florida State and others, because Miami actually has aerospace engineering while others don't have that major. I think Purdue was in his recruitment late because Purdue has aerospace engineering program as well. And Purdue has signed 4-star All-American wide receivers in the last couple of years up there. So he considered maybe going there. But yeah, this is a kid who just physically fits the paradigm as well of what you're looking for at a wide receiver position. So yeah, between those 3 guys, I would say that's who I'm really most looking forward to seeing on offense. I want to see what Tyler Van Dyke can do, the quarterback, just because, he has a rocket for an arm and he can flick his wrist and throw it 70 yards. Jalen Rivers at offensive line, because Miami needs offensive linemen, and he's arguably better than some of the ones that we've had on campus and played in games this year. I know you asked me for 1 and I've given you 5, but if you add in a Chance Williams, who's Jalen Rivers' high school teammate, he's another top 50 recruit or top 60 recruit as a weak side defensive end pass rusher with moves on moves. He's another guy that I would love to see out there. There's Daz Worsham, who was committed to Alabama from Alabama. He's coming down. He's probably going to take over the number 4 jersey that has been vacated by Jeff Thomas moving to the league. So there goes 4. Here comes new 4. There are players to be excited about in this recruiting class. But yet, and still on the roster, there are holes at offensive line, at cornerback, at athleticism, at linebacker. New athleticism, because Zach McLeod is athletic. Sam Brooks can fly. And Avery Huff is a freaky athlete. he's one of the fastest guys on this team already, and he's barely scratching the surface of his skills. I mean, when I worked at Deerfield all these years ago, this is when Denard Robinson and Jason Pierre-Paul were there. Jason Pierre-Paul played more tight end than defensive end in high school. And I was friends with the coaches because we were all on faculty and everything. And the tight end and DN coach told me then, he said, if Jason gets his mind together, he's a first-round draft pick. But he wants to lollygag. He wants to chase after girls. He wants to be part-time sometime. But you saw him walk through the hallways. And just think of Jason Pierre-Paul, but 50 pounds of muscle lighter. So 6'5", probably like 210. Just athleticism oozing out of every pore of his body. When I look at Avery Huff, that's what I think of. I mean, just this moldable piece of clay. And if he dedicates himself to really pushing his body and see what he can do with it, oh, man. But you're not adding to that. You're not adding a Justin Flo. You're not adding a Keyshawn Green to push those guys forward at linebacker or corner or offensive line. And those kind of things are where the problems in this class come from. But like I said up front, when you ask about guys to be excited about, there are plenty of those as well. And I didn't even mention Jalen Harrell. What? See, come on.
Folks, we've got 171 on the line. And so we should have a ton of likes. We should have at least 171.
Thank you.
Because that actually means there's probably been 500 people come through here. So we should actually have more likes than we have current people in the live stream right now. I'm going to ask this question before I move on to the question that one of your comments, maybe some light flickering there.
I just blew a light bulb, apparently.
I had one over here too.
Yeah.
That I have sparked by a statement that you made, but we're going to go to Anthony Manzano on the screen because Anthony's been doing this like for forever. He's this question is he's copied and pasted this question about 8 times and then said, Mark, please. So here it is about Darnell Washington. Although you've addressed Darnell Washington's recruitment in terms of him measuring up to the legacy at the position.
So the question is, with the consistency that Miami produces T's and tight ends into the NFL, do you think Darnell Washington will commit to us on the strength of that? No, I don't. And I mean, look, I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't, honestly. You rarely come across a player of that size, 6'8", 260, which is going to push him up into 5-star. And he has skills and movement ability too. So he's not just boxy. He's not really, he's not a 4.2 speedster, but you know what I mean? He has loose hips. He can catch the ball. He's a player. At Paradise Camp, he shut everything down just because everybody was watching him and his reps, and Tyler Van Dyke was just like, cool, I'm going to throw it over there. And people thought, okay, he's just force-feeding him with the ball because he wants him to come. Van Dyke wants Washington to come to Miami. First of all, he does. But if he's open and it's a mismatch all the time, why not give him the ball? It is Miami's tendency and history in putting tight ends into the league is a footnote in the recruitment of Darnell Washington. But I think that the other chapters and volumes of the recruitment are going to be more impactful than that. It is Miami's history and even current present with tight ends enough to get Darnell Washington, or should it be? Yes. Will it be? I fear not.
So, Cam, you mentioned that there are still holes in this football team. Absolutely. And then you said offensive line. Your fourth best player in the rankings is an offensive lineman, but that's just one guy, and you need volumes. So did this coaching staff address offensive line to your satisfaction? No,
they did not. Period. And again, like I said, you miss on Isaiah Walker Jr., 4-star All-American from Miami Norland. You miss on Marcus Dumerville. You miss on Marlon Martinez. You miss on some other guys too. And I talk about this every year where you have Power 5 level guys down here in South Florida, but you overlook them for name recognition or something else, but then you're going for names and you don't get them. Bringing in 2 offensive linemen in this class when you needed 4 to 5 in this class of quality, not just depth, but depth and talent, is unacceptable. I mean, and to follow up on your point, you're talking about, the fourth highest rated recruit is Jalen Rivers, an offensive lineman. If you look all the way to the bottom, the lowest rated recruit in our class in its entirety is the other offensive lineman that we signed, 6'7", Chris Washington from Nashville, Tennessee. Now, he's a developmental player. He's a guy who's going to need a couple mango seasons, 2, maybe 3 years before he hits the field. Again, if you can have the Danny Isadora progression model, where he came in from Cypress Bay and Weston High School, and he didn't start playing until his third year, his redshirt sophomore year, but ended his redshirt senior year, his fifth year, as a second-team All-ACC player. If you follow that progressional path with Chris Washington, you will be ecstatic. But you need guys now. And it is Manny Diaz said he's very happy because Rivers and Washington are both tackle bodies. You know, Rivers is 6'6", Washington is 6'7". Rivers is like 325, 330. Washington's only 273, so you have room to bulk up his frame. But you have true tackle size guys, big, tall, long arms, and you need that on this roster. And that's great that you get one who can play now and one who you can bring along over the course of time. But it's not enough, especially when you're going to be losing guys from this room. You've already lost guys from the offensive line room. And even if you bring all these guys back, Miami's offensive line was still putrid this year. So you're going to bring back a lot of guys who need a lot of development to get to where the performance needs to be. Bringing in 2 guys is not good enough, especially when it was, and I tweeted this out, and people, the opposing fan bases hopped on this tweet very strongly. It was an uncommon year in terms of offensive line talent, the recruits that were available locally in South Florida, because you had tackles, plural, of a high caliber. You had guards that you could bring in too, because I know people are saying, Cam, we don't need guards. You still need numbers. So you can't only have tackles, but you have an uncommon amount of talent at a position of dire need in the local South Florida area. And Miami got exactly 0 of them. Jalen Rivers is from Jacksonville. Chris Washington is from Nashville. You got nobody south of Jacksonville? Out of all the guys available in this class, especially at this position, out of all positions. No, it's not good enough. Absolutely not. And I mean, I get it. We had Antonio Smith from Ocala Vanguard. That's the same high school that N'Kosi Perry once starred at. But you move on from him because of academic reasons or the fact that you didn't like the color of his shirt one day and you say, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. Whatever the reason is, that takes a player off of the board at this position in this class. Did you replace him with anybody? No. So don't talk to me about upgrading when you went from a guy to nobody. Now, I understand that you cannot have non-Miami caliber guys on this roster. So if Miami thought that Antonio Smith was not Miami caliber, good on them for moving on from him. But where's the replacement? You can't just say, okay, this guy doesn't fit, and then end up with nothing. What are you doing? I mean, if I was going to be dramatic, what I would do is I would take my headphones down, I would put them down, and I would leave. And then you would see a blank wall behind a microphone. Okay, cool. Because if Cam does not fit on this show, then we're going to get somebody. And I walk away, and all you have is a microphone, some headphones, and nobody talking. That's not a replacement. That's just you acknowledging that where you were going was wrong. But then you didn't do anything to support that. You didn't do anything to move forward from that. No, the offensive line recruiting was not good enough, and I'm not going to believe that you're going to fix it with going to the transfer portal, because you tried it this year and it didn't work.
The super chat is on. It's available for everyone. Please contribute to the channel, contribute to what Cam delivers to us each and every week here at Miami Hurricanes Live. And invite your friends, invite your college football friends here as well each and every week, even as we head toward the off season. But first, there will be an Independence Bowl game against the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech.
Oh, yeah, right.
And yes, there's another game to play. You finish 7-6.
Yeah.
It's a game that, in a proverbial sense, you can't win, unfortunately, because if you win, you're supposed to win. If you lose, it looks horrible. But you've got some insight into the way the quarterback situation is going to be handled in practice and has been in preparation for this game.
Yeah, man. Diaz said, because he was asked about it yesterday, because there's not going to be any more media availability until post game, which is kind of crazy. But hey, it'd be like that. About how things are going. Quarterback. Tate Martell put up a tweet. Saying let's go, but with a picture of him on the field from probably one of the scrimmages or whatever. So people are like, oh, Tate Martell's back. So how's that going? Everything. And Mandia said, yeah, every position is available for competition, and pretty much everybody has worked with the first team offense. And he went so far as to name Carson Proctor, who's a walk-on, Peyton Matoka, who's a redshirt, and the three quarterbacks that Jalen Williams, N'Kosi Perry, and Tate Martell. So you have 5 quarterbacks who are rotating with the ones. Bro, come on, really? But I mean, hey, it's eventually you're going to find out who's going to play in the game and everything, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, this Miami team's going to look a little bit different because a couple guys aren't playing. Jeff Thomas, John Garvin. Isn't there somebody else? No, it's just them. But yeah, I mean, apart from the injuries, but that have been sustained and everything. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who steps up. Trayvon Hill, that was the other one, defensive end who's not playing. So, guys like a Jafari Harvey, who's only played in 3 games, he's going to play in his 4th game in the bowl game. He's probably going to play heavy snaps, but he's going to maintain his red shirt, because of the new rule and things like that. So it will be interesting to see which way things go. And from here on out, it's kind of 0 dark 30 because, I mean, I don't know which beat writers are going to go to Shreveport, Louisiana for Christmas week, and good on them and, their spouses and families for, that trip because woof. But yeah, so, I mean, we'll see what happens. Well, yeah, we will see what happens. We'll see which way, things go with the running backs. And obviously Cam Harris is going to start, but what about Robert Burns? How many carries is he going to go? Is he going to cede any carries to Lorenzo Lingard potentially? Jeremiah Payton, he still, play as a wide receiver. He was, a very good player coming out of high school. He was an All-American. Is he a guy who's going to start to see the field a little bit with Jeff Thomas not out there? You're going to have another couple of guys. So it'll be, it will be interesting to see, who plays and just the level of personal fortitude that they bring to the field because, yeah, just it is the point where you're playing for pride. And unfortunately, when I was in high school at Cranbrook, we got steamrolled by Country Day and the districts a couple of times with a full starting lineup that went D1 basketball. Like, I mean, it was, crazy. So, we're down $1.5 million halftime and coach came in and said, hey, you got to play for pride. And at some time you got to strap it up and just say, yeah, that I'm going to play for me. So I can get up and look at myself in the mirror and be like, yo, I gave everything I had. It might not have been good enough, but I'm going to do it. And I think that, that's kind of where Miami is. You just kind of have to dig in and give it your best. Now, I mean, obviously the coaches are going to say, hey, win this bowl game that spins into the spring, that spins into next season, use that momentum going forward. But at some point, you just have to have guys who are not going to quit.
So, yeah, basically, again, we've talked about bowl games and different people have different perception on the importance of the bowl games, and certainly this bowl game would not rank very high. And it puts Miami in a difficult position, but they put themselves in this position of playing a team that they're expected to beat. They're a touchdown favorite, which isn't some ridiculous point spread that they can just go out there and just cut loose and not really care and walk home with a win. That's not necessarily the case. We've seen it before. But they are the better football team with a better talent substantially. When we get back to the recruiting side of things, Manny Diaz took recruiting by a storm last year because Mark Richt was losing recruits. It was in a bad way, and he salvaged the 2019 class to a certain extent. So when you look at whether either it's what is coming out of Manny's mouth in response to questions about his approach or just the way he conducts himself and the results, do you see a noticeable theme or MO that Manny Diaz brings to the table as a recruiter that marks his territory as this is the way he does it. This is his style. This is his approach.
I mean, he's talking about changing the approach already, about, the protocols, he calls it, of what it means to be committed to Miami. The thing that he's said a lot is, he talks about a lot about culture, a lot about personality, and fit. And those are things that I think are being leaned on heavily. The right kind of guys, the culture on either side of the ball, how they fit at the University of Miami and things like that. He talks a good game, and you see where he's coming from. We want to bring in this guy for this reason or whatever. But the other thing that he said, and I appreciate him noting it, but if you win more games, then you probably close better. And look, good on them for keeping pretty much everybody committed, other than you lose one in Romello Height, who's a blue chipper, so that hurts. Willie Moise is a 4-star blue chip player also, but he has academic issues. Hopefully he gets in and gets his stuff together. Gets his stuff together and then gets in. If not, then that's another one, but that would be attrition for a different reason. But it could have been easy for this class to really fall apart. Now, yeah, okay, you did get Daz Worsham to commit recently. You did get Jalen Knight, and you did get Jalen Harrell. So I'm not going to say there hasn't been anything, but by and large, the recruiting class was done by like the 5th of December, and there was no movement from then. But yeah, you're in the conversation with Justin Flo. You lose those games, that conversation stops. I believe the same thing with, Darnell Washington. And I don't understand why other teams are able to recruit when they don't win. Look at Nebraska, 5-7, terrible. When Willie Taggart got fired after 21 games, you and I sat here and talked about Scott Frost and his level of performance or lack thereof, and why he should maybe be on the hot seat or run out of town anyway. He done got 5 guys from Dade County this year. Scott Frost in Nebraska. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting kind of a thing. We'll see how things go, but it was recruiting rule number 9, but it is probably the most impactful thing. If you don't win games, winning games is proof of concept. You can talk all that you want to talk, Manny Diaz. I can talk, Mark can talk, Dabo Swinney, Jim Harbaugh, whoever you want to name. Nick Saban can talk. But if you don't win games, nobody care. So that's where the lip service that he pays, Manny Diaz that is good, because he understands the sauce game. He understands how to talk to people and get them to feel a certain way. And look, you got all these guys committed in this class, which took some work. But unless and until you win games, this is probably going to be the ceiling for recruiting, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, it would be good enough to win Coastal Division championships, although these type recruiting classes have not translated to Coastal Division championships except for one in 2017. So the best recruiting classes have not. But of course, Miami, if they want to get back to being what they've been in the past, the Coastal Division is not enough. But that should be target number 1, of course, on the championship scale, because that's the first one in front of you. You can't win the ACC before you win the Coastal. J-Love, our guy, J-Love T, joins us on a regular basis. Enjoy his comments on a regular basis, asking Cam, how do you feel about Dan Enos saying that systems don't matter?
I don't like it. He said systems don't win championships because he was asked about going to more of a spread scheme. He said, I don't know what a spread offense is. Schemes don't win championships. That to me is a glaring issue. You know what it is, first of all. And if you don't, then that should be fireable. But, a spread offense, the implied part of that is tempo, first of all. And I was talking with Vishnu Parasuraman. He works with Sebastian's Pub and also a couple other outlets and things like that. And he tweeted something, and I said, yeah, you know what it is. Or he refuses, Dan Enos, because he does. Okay, so the other part of the answer was, what are you talking about? We run out of shotgun, we throw the ball, we run the ball from shotgun, we've done QB run things. Those are things that are spread offense, so we run a spread offense, right? Daniel Gould, who charts every play, said, there were 5 called all quarterback runs this year. 5 plays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where the quarterback ran the ball, like as a dictated play. That's an element of a spread offense. So don't sit here and say that we run QB run when you called 5 of them a year. Don't sit here and say that we run a spread offense when you know that, and I said this, I said the 2 things that he refuses to do that are staples and the most successful, or 2 of the more successful elements of a spread offense, are spacing and tempo. Because if you look at a Baylor offense, regardless on your feeling on the person who designed that offense, you have receivers outside the numbers. You're spreading the field laterally. So you're creating room to get people open. Because you've seen it. And look, Miami's done this before. When they came out in heavy formation against Florida State in 2014 in Hard Rock Stadium, what was it? It was a running back, fullback, tight end, 2 receivers. But they used that personnel and came out spread, and that was the Clive Walford 61-yard touchdown up the seam. That was a touchdown by alignment because they had an inside linebacker in there who couldn't run with him. So by the moment that they broke the huddle, that's a touchdown. You can get that in a spread scheme too, if you use the space. If you watch Baylor games, and look, I've seen some of them. You can see on the outside, the one receiver is not even running because he knows, we got this over here. I don't even need to run. I must put my arms up and celebrate my homeboy getting a touchdown on this side. But Dan Enos refuses to run at spacing or run proper spacing. He likes to try to find space from going tight. This is the thing that Sean McVay did or does a lot in the pros I've talked about and done film study on. But you're not Sean McVay, buddy. Sorry. So you try to find space from tight formations. That doesn't work for you. Then you try to run things only to the short side of the field or only roll out the quarterback to the opposite side of their strong hand. Those don't work for you. And you don't run at tempo. Look, these games where we lost and they're running this, pedantic pace tempo down 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, snapping the ball with 3 on the play clock. What are you doing? Let's go. But even if you just used or ran the offense that you're running and change some spacing and update the tempo, that would be more of a spread offense. So I'm frustrated and angered by the fact that Dan Enos says, I don't know what a spread offense is, and systems don't win championships. No, I'm not saying the system wins the championship, but also it is demonstrated this year that what you're trying to do does not work. So we're going to sit here on offense and be the inverse of what Mark D'Onofrio did on defense and not change anything and continue to be 130th out of 130 in third down conversions, 120th out of 130 in red zone efficiency, 91st and whatever. We're going to continue to do that because the system doesn't win championships. The system doesn't matter. Bro, what are we talking about? What you did does not work. We want to put guys in space. And maybe, just maybe, and I said this, but I don't remember if it was on here or wherever else that I've done appearances. But even if you make the small shift of instead of running those jet sweeps and touch passes with Jeff Thomas to the short side of the field if you're on the right number or right hash mark, you run them to the short side. What if you flip that play and run it to the wide side, where instead of going to the 15 yards between the hash and the sideline, you're running to the 38 1/3 yards laterally from the right hash to the left sideline, giving them space to make something work. And if you remember that punt return touchdown against Virginia last year, 2018, that Jeff Thomas had, he started on the left side and there was all kinds of space to the right side. So he went from the hash a little bit to the short side to set up a block, and he scored where? On the other side, using all that 53 1/3 coming back the other way. That's a usage of space that you can concretely go back and look at and say, this is a playmaker of Miami caliber. This is a guy who can score on any play that he wants, or not he wants to, but any play that he touches the ball. You use it, and he saw the space going to the wide side of the field, and he used it, and he scored. Why would you not try to scheme something like that into your offense? Because your name is Dan Enos and you don't know what a spread offense is by what you told reporters yesterday.
Isn't he devaluing his own position and role?
Yes.
The systems don't matter.
bro. But I mean, not even that. But you're saying I asked you a direct question about you, about something that is underneath your purview, something that is literally in your job description to know. And you overtly come and tell me, I don't know what that is. Cool, I need somebody else in here who does then. Because if you don't have the requisite knowledge to do your job, that means that you cannot do your job. And with all due respect, Mr. Enos, by the statistics that we saw and by the production on the field of this offense, you had people questioning that anyway.
Hurricane Logan, Michael Love, Justin Firm again. We thank you so much for the contributions in the super chat. We got Willis Telemak, Mr. Rogers, Cam Underwood. How are you gentlemen doing? I'm doing fine. I believe Cam is as well.
True.
Can you ask Cam about the rest of the recruiting year? Are we going to upgrade our secondary?
I certainly hope so. Again, whether that's from a high school prospect or from a transfer portal or whomever, I hope so. The rest of the recruiting year, I don't have it now, and my computer's acting a little wonky, so I cannot actually tab and look it up when the quiet periods and contacts and things like that. I believe it's not until January that a contact period opens up where you can go visit guys and bring them back in for official visits. But that's going to be a time where Miami is going to have to work really hard to get guys on campus, get them connected, and bring them in. So there is more time between now and traditional signing day in February, but contact needs to already start to be made because you can always, electronically communicate with people. So people say, oh, like it was a violation for Nebraska to call Jaden Francois yesterday at his announcement ceremony. It was not. Because electronic communications are permitted, so you're going to need to do those. But yeah, the rest of the cycle goes until whatever the first Wednesday in February is, and there's a window after that. There's a big window. It's like 6 weeks or 8 weeks that you can sign after the first Wednesday in February. But yeah, it's going to be a sprint to that point. And yeah, just really regrouping and seeing, okay, where we can go. Somebody asked me way long ago, I saw it kind of scroll by, Manny Diaz has said that the goal, the paradigm was to sign a full class of 25 this year. And somebody asked me, how likely do I see that being at this point in time? I'll kind of go incomplete on that just because we all need to kind of regroup. And see where things go and then see which way the staff goes because, you're only at 18 right now. And, it's almost to the point where you can't count Willie Moise because reportedly he's further behind in his academic pursuits than even guys before him, like a Cam Williams, who also went to Chaminade Madonna last year. Apparently, Cam Williams was further ahead in whatever his academic situation was than Willie Moise is. So if you cannot count him, and at this point it's looking that way, that means you have 7 scholarships in this class alone. I mean, that's, that's 40% of what you've already signed, outstanding still. If I do my quick maths, 7 divided by 25. Yeah, that's 28% of your class right there. That's almost a third that of a 25-man class that's outstanding or, not signed yet. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask. But it is my sincere hope and goal that does happen, especially because Miami is still under the 85 number scholarship limit. And, the talent is needed, but especially at, those positions like offensive line and cornerback where, the dearth of talent is it's a major factor on this roster right now.
Never fails hope, folks. Each and every time out on the live stream, we always have the most people online right at the end of the show with 195 on the line. So what you need to do if you've missed most of this is you wait for the video to post, which will only take a few minutes. Give it about 15 or 20 minutes. You head on back and you watch what you missed as Cam really did an exhaustive dive on the National Signing Day and Miami's first. What are we guessing? Because this question was asked at some point. Somebody was taking a guess at 25 total signees when it's all said and done.
Right. Yeah, no, that was the question I was just asking. I don't know that we're going to get to 25.
Okay.
Like I said, again, that's almost a third of your class right there, and you got to get them all now. And it's not even like guys that Miami's been connected to didn't sign. So it's not even like guys that you were talking to and they just kind of pause it and you continue that relationship. Like in a lot of these cases, those guys that Miami asked or people asked about earlier, outside of Avante Williams, who Miami has been recruiting for a couple of years, but a Demon Clowney, some of these other guys, these are guys that Miami might have lobbed an offer or sent a little bit of contact to, but these are not top of the rotation guys. These are not guys who have been recruited by Miami for the duration and are just pausing their decision-making process. So, it's a microwave situation where you got to heat up that water really quickly. So, I put it in the microwave, I set it on 90 seconds, and hopefully it gets boiling all the way to where it needs to be. But yeah, it's going to be interesting kind of a thing to see where they go. But yeah, getting 25 is going to be a yeoman's task, but it needs to come to fruition because we need the numbers. And to answer the question that was just on the screen about running a version of the Baltimore Ravens offense, nobody on our offense, nobody is anything close to Lamar Jackson. And he is the straw that stirs the drink at, high school, college, the pro level. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a singular talent. He is going to go down as one of the best football players to ever play. Obviously, I think his numbers, if it has not already been, it should be soon at Boynton Beach High School. It should also be retired at the University of Louisville. That's a different beast. And on top of that, their offensive line is better as well. So even if you want to get away from the individual player kind of look at things, we don't have an offensive line like they have either. So those would be some reasons why we're not running things like that. But if we had the talent at specifically offensive line and quarterback to do those kind of things, I'm good with, putting up 600 yards and 45 points a game like that. That's something I would enjoy doing. Sure.
Yeah, and the Ravens did an exceptional job, and this is the kind of organization they are, is to take an offense that was built around Joe Flacco and be able to turn it around pretty much on a dime. And they did have some struggles last year, and Lamar Jackson was only a rookie, but they still made the playoffs. And he struggled in the playoffs, and people were questioning whether he was the guy. But man, he has turned into a polished passer in addition to the gifted runner that he is, that we've only seen a couple times in the history of the NFL. All right, this is going to wrap it up. Hope you've enjoyed and appreciated this Miami Hurricanes Live post-National Signing Day. We've got a bowl game, of course, to carve up. Hopefully, we've got the holidays to deal with. We've got a number of obligations. I'm sure Cam and also myself, we will do our best to get together sometime next week and talk up Miami football, whether that be before or after the Independence Bowl.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I know I'm a little bit later this week because signing day just consumed my life like it always does every single year. But thanks for showing up. Be sure that you follow the website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports. Also, I host the Locked On Canes podcast with my boy Fred Purdue. It's not every day anymore. It's like 2 or 3 times a week. So be sure that you listen to that. Had a good recruiting episode today with Andrew Ivins from 247 Sports. And I'm always around. So I'll be back on here some other time. So if you don't get enough of me, those are some other places, or you can find me at the new Secret Day Job, which a lot of you have, by the way. Even some people who Mark said that they found me from watching these videos and things. So it was like, it was funny the other day. It's like, you look a lot like that Cam Underwood person. And I said, yeah, no, that's crazy. I tell myself that, every day in the mirror. But yeah, so if too many more people come in the Secret Day Job, I'm going to have to just tell people, because I've seen so many different people who have recognized me from here at the Secret Day, and other places at the Secret Day Job and everything. So we'll see what happens. But in any event, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
That reminds me of the story. I don't think I've told this on any of these live streams or videos. This was about 3 years ago. I'm back home, and so I'm about 600 miles away from my home, but I'm back home at my mom's house, and I'm taking a jog close to the downtown where she lives, and all of a sudden I hear this, Mark Rogers TV! This guy yelling. He's driving his car, and he's got the window down.
Right. Nice. Yeah.
Funny
No,
stuff.
it's a fun feeling for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, we appreciate all this support, and we'll see you next time.
Cam, we appreciate it. We will see everyone soon. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday fashion you enjoy. And we will see everyone soon.